All right, motherfucker, we're live.
Let's go, let's go, let's go!
Cool.
Sponsored by water, Earth's provider, insensible to all life that we know.
So we're kicking it off with.
Kicking off with our journey so far. How's it been? Coming in from September when we first started, working together side by side compared to now. We're about halfway through February, almost. It's 12th.
Yeah, yep.
How we feeling? How we feeling?
Hmm. Definitely feeling. I'm definitely feeling good. I'm feeling ready. My journey obviously starts uh, way before we met, and the journey that I started with was one of like self discovery. Like the real original reason why I thought about starting Grow at Brock was because um, I wanted to recreate my peer group. I just ended my wrestling career after the better part of 10 years. And being at Brock, I didn't stay in res. I didn't party. I was just on the wrestling team. I barely went to class. you know, I was a varsity athlete, like a athlete student, not a student athlete, in the sense of emphasis there. And so, yeah, when I stopped the sport and went through a really bad breakup, it broke me, and I had an existential crisis because I was literally only at that school to be an athlete, and then I stopped being an athlete. So it was like, who are you now? Everybody that did know me like knew me as a really good athlete, and that was it. So when I didn't have that anymore, it that and the breakup really hit me really hard, and so I tripped on the book, not literally, but the book Think and Grow Rich, which references the concept of a mastermind group, which is really just a small group of people that act as each other's board of directors. You probably heard the quote, "You should be the CEO of your own life," and
Yep.
every CEO needs a board, really a board that they report to, that they're accountable to. That's the way it functions in business. That's the way this is meant to function as well. And there was only one rule, that you had to be ambitious. And it started off with um, my best friend at the time, Marcus, who was on the wrestling team with me. And I think he kept wrestling. I don't remember if he quit when I did or not. But anyways, I was into entrepreneurship. He was helping me with my window cleaning business. I got into Grow, and yeah, so we started that with two people, and then the other entrepreneur in residence at Brock, John Holland, who again is like a founding member of Grow, was member number 3. He invited my best friend Khalil. Like I only met him because people were inviting their friends to Grow meetings. We used to host them every Sunday, and and that's where the community began. And I really experienced peer support as was the best part of my life, and it still is. And it set the tone for my relationships in a way that I feel like when I look at other people's relationships, it's not to say that they don't have like a depth and like a love and all the same good qualities that when you think of friendship you think of, but what they usually don't have is a foundation of productivity and accountability, as in like the relationship I have with my best friends is literally one of peer support. Like that is the foundation that the relationship is built on. It's not like we have good times and sometimes we keep each other accountable and like check in on our goals. It's like that's what we do, and that is different than what I see other people having. Like, not that I'm trying to like say I have better relationships, but they are more productive. just because they're more deliberate.
No, that's the whole foundation. Most people I know, it's more so like, oh, I'm upset because like my girlfriend dumped me, or like, I'm really upset because the coffee order I got messed up. It's never really like, where are you in your career? Like,
Yeah,
you told me you had these business plans or these aspirations you had. Like, how's
yeah,
that coffee shop doing? You know what
yeah,
I mean? Like, how's that? Like, you told me you wanted to run your own electrical company. Like, what are you doing about that right now? There's not.
yeah,
I never see there's that level of accountability. It's ever in like a normal friend group. It's more so let's just go out and have some drinks and talk about the girl I was seeing, or
yeah.
simple like, oh, how's work? I work same old, right? There's never like a push to be something greater.
And I don't want to cheapen the experience of people by saying they're never productive. Like, I've seen productivity in people's relationships. It's just that it's not like systematic, you know?
Like, it
It's
lacks structure.
literally exactly. Yeah. It's like, you know how you were saying the other day that you've got a group of friends that you hang out with, and whenever you try to bring up,
Yeah, I
uh,
try to bring up anything, and vast majority of them, I'd say about 4 of the 6 individuals will say something funny or humorous, and there'll be 2 people that actually take it seriously, and that moment be like, oh no, like I'm gonna hear you on, give you an actual like level of feedback, whereas the other is you're like, no, I'm actually looking for feedback about grow, for instance, like, hey, I have a logo design. This is the logo design. These are the 2 iterations. What do you think? And the first 4 will say something. You're like, oh, it looks like this, or it looks like blah blah. And they're just more so joking around, kind of giving like a satire comment. And then you have 2 people
yeah,
like, honestly, I like the first one more than the second one. I feel like the color dynamic though of the second one looks better, right? That's the difference.
yeah. And I think, like, just assuming, correct me if I'm wrong, but if you called them like crying or upset, they would react appropriately.
In most cases, I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's not that they're, bad people are not taking the relationship seriously. It's just that, like, their baseline isn't productivity. So
What they
they know.
prioritize, I see, is just different, right? Like, I
Yeah,
prioritize growing the business and us doing it, I'm looking for feedback, whereas like they prioritize more so like that emotional aspect. Like you said, if I
yeah,
called them, yeah, all my friends are definitely going to be there, right? Like,
yeah,
they're going to pick up the phone and be like, oh my god, what's happening? Let's talk. Let's go out. Let's get through this. But it's just that level of prioritization in life. I prioritize
exactly.
the productivity of the group. They prioritize the emotional aspect of the relationship.
Yeah, exactly. And so, um, when I compare that to, like, this is less about my relationships as a result of grow and more about like what grow ends up being. It's more a systematic way for you to develop and like deepen those relationships. Like when you make your grow group, which you've been just like starting to shortlist, when you actually have that group, like the actual invitation to be a part of the group is, hey, I really value our relationship and I want to strengthen it. Like, I don't just want to be there for the good times with you. I want to push you and I want you to push me. And I've made a list and I've ranked people and you're at the top of my list. I want you to be a part of my group. Like, that's how I imagine the invitation being. Obviously everyone's going to do it their own way, but that's how I imagine doing it.
So in comparison, though, how do you think this journey is going so far? Because we already, like, you gave us the whole
Yeah.
context of the backstory, but how about right now,
Yeah.
especially going into 2024? Right, we're about a month and a half in. A lot of stuff is picking up. A lot of stuff is changing. But like, how do you think it's going so far?
Yeah. Realize I kind of got into
Little
the
digression.
principle of what grow is, what it means to me. Um, but yeah, I would say, like, it feels great to have jumped in with 2 feet to the degree that I did last year, and I got some advice last year from my mentor Jack, saying that I need help and like uh, I need a team around me if this is gonna work.
You need peer support to create peer support.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a. I
yeah,
mean,
yeah. It's not a solo, not a solo project, not a solo journey, like it says on the whiteboard. Um, and so, really, last year represented 2 things for me. It represented like commitment, like immersion and focus, because didn't. I honestly, I would never advise anyone to do what I did last year to get to the point of focus that I got to. But the point of it for me was immersing in one thing, and I see the benefit to that. And the second thing is support. Like having you on the team has totally changed what the day to day. looks like and feels like. And I, yeah, like it couldn't be a better argument for why peer support's awesome, and why you don't want to do anything alone. We're social creatures in that fashion. And then heading into the new year, I was dealing with burnout. You were making a career change. We were still getting to know each other, like onboarding personally and professionally, and then there was a lot of progress made with partnerships and like me starting to show people what I've been working on. But before we started to run with those, or even like the students that were on the wait list, we did a lot of work under the hood, like
Yeah.
redesigning the curriculum, the website, et cetera, productizing.
All the content was shifted slightly, revamping everything, going through every
Yeah,
little bit.
just a fine tooth comb to make sure that what we present is the best version that we can at the time. And I felt like everything that I had was good, but lacked some detail. And I just wanted to give it a second go over before unleashing it on the world. And I'm really glad that I did and that we did. And so now, um, we're just getting back on campus and just starting to reactivate those partnership conversations and getting a lot of business advice from people. I'm really making a point to lean into my network um, for composing that team.
Same with myself. I've been scheduling meetings constantly to talk to a bunch of people, especially now that we're going back on campus, especially now that we're starting to host all these events. It's like this is the most important time to like really. It's like I have met all these individuals, all these colleagues or friends. They work in such diverse workforces or communities, and it's like I need all the advice I can get. Right, I need to see all eyes on this. Right.
Yeah, for sure. And honestly, that never really ends, which
No,
is the whole point on peer support.
I think it's good though because now that we're checking up on it, it's like I was out for a while, you were out for a while, and now we're like, hey, I got something, right? And
Yeah,
now like you're in that life a bit more, right? It's not just like halfway through, but you're getting it now sooner than later. That way, when you keep on checking in, basically, and you're like, oh, I need to like I've changed a bit in the last few months, but it's gotten a lot better. What do you have to say now, right?
yeah. So when I look at that as a with my like CEO founder hat on, like we were immersed in product development, and that I look at as like the substance of what we're doing,
Yep.
and it
No.
made sense to do that, having you join so that you understand what the hell's under the hood and contribute to it, but also we like put a new engine in it,
Yeah.
and that feels really good.
Feels like we were building a car and you already had the engine, but we're like, we got to rebuild this. And we took the whole thing out, swapped everything on the inside, fine tuned it, cleaned everything up, and now we're closing it back in. And we're going, all right, guys, come look at the car, see what you got to say.
Yeah, yeah, a lot of great improvements were made, and
A lot of innovations too. Quite a few products that we've made in the last few months, especially you working on and then me helping you with on the side, like is going to drastically change the impact of Grow itself.
yeah, I think that's worth talking about. I think that's worth getting into before, like before I'll say like up until like September, October, when we started to go under the hood again. I had the the V1, which was like the fruits of my experience and preparation over the last 10 years, knowing that I wanted to do this the whole time. The meeting structure was there. There was a ton of research. The products that I knew I wanted to develop, or at least some of them, had their first version. Jack AI had its first iteration. Um,
Like the idea was there.
Not just the idea, I actually built the conversation flow and was using it through Google Form and in Chat GPT. But and I haven't revisited that until recently with Bij on the team now, instead of actually putting that stuff together. But what's happened in the meantime has been the thoughts and observations journal and the human performance information system, like that project management tool that's measuring that focus and giving that data visualization. That the work that we've been doing there,
Yep.
um, the level of focus and attention that I've been able to get out of myself and that we've been able to get out of each other is as a result of those tools being developed first for us and then for mentors later, sorry, for
It's
members
like it
later.
feels like a trickle down effect. It's kind of like when you look at like innovations that occur in like NASA or like the military. It's like it starts there, but then trickles down. It's the same situation. We
Yeah,
originally created, like you originally created the HPIS for us to be better at productivity,
yeah,
so we could work better. And then realizing from that, we're like, we like everyone can use this. Like this would be
yeah,
a great tool for everyone. So now it's about transforming that down to something they can use that anyone can use at
yeah,
all everywhere. Because honestly, if me and you use this on a day-to-day business for the business, there is the same implication occurs whether it be you're working for somebody, whether you want to use it just for your day-to-day tasks, whatever the case is. But it has so many diverse areas it can work in
mhm.
that it'd be greedy not to be able to share that with the world, right? Like that's how I see it.
Yeah, yeah, it
We
definitely
I
would be
would see it as
selfish.
being like selfish. It creates such a great tool, and you could honestly see the impact,
You
right?
know, you know what's funny about you saying that? It reminds me of there's a guy, a friend of mine that I got close to during COVID. His his public name is Humble the Poet. He's like a
Humble
pretty,
the poet.
yeah, he's pretty well known, best selling author, and also a rapper, Indian guy, and yeah, he's a really dope human. I met him in a in a poetry group during COVID, and we hit it off. He happened to live in Ontario at the time. Came to my birthday party during like it was just a cool story. But anyways, um, I was really leaning into like writing, and I have some like unfinished books that I've started, and I've had like I keep having like phases where I'm writing a lot and like publishing my thoughts, but then
It's like an art form, right?
yeah,
I
even
see similar to art. Like I haven't started writing too much. I want to get into it, but I know the experience from like painting or drawing. It's when you're in it, you're in it. But when you're not in it, you can't put yourself in. It's kind of like a writer's block, or I call it like an artistic block, right? It's when you're in it, it's like that. But when you're not in there, you're distracted by other stuff. It's you can't force it, right?
there's a really interesting book by Stephen Pressfield called The War of Art, which is uh, it fundamentally disagrees with that concept of writer's block, and it's a really fucking good book that both of us probably should revisit. But what I was getting at is that Humble basically told me that I'm doing a disservice to people by not sharing what I have to say, and it meant a lot to me. Um, and I realize like it is like a not in a grandiose way, although probably a little bit, but like um, I I used to really feed off of the response, like the positive, like the impact that sharing your words can have, especially as a student leader at Brock and stuff, and like not having that like leadership hat on, like it actually I feel like less of an actualized version of myself when I'm not doing it. But couldn't get over the hump of making content like we are right now. Like couldn't make a system out of it because I need someone else there. Like over the course of the last like 5 years, I've probably made like professional content like 5 times. Usually happens right around my birthday, and I drop some content on my birthday.
We got like what 6 days?
Yeah, exactly. But like literally, that's how it's been. If you look at my social media, you'll
Yeah, I know
see
you've been like, oh yeah, I just found this video. I'm like,
post here, post, and they were all made around my birthday and posted on my birthday. That's why I'm doing a birthday video this year
I
as
know,
well
which
because
is
I'm not having the party. But roundabout way of saying that it feels good to be taking that advice and doing something with the gifts that we have. The other piece of advice that he gave me that resonates really strongly now, he said that when 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 winning feels overdue is usually when it happens, as in like everybody wants to win, but when you've put in so much work that the win feels overdue, like bro, I should have won already, like I should be rich already, or this should already be at this stage, whatever. That's usually when those opportunities actually land. And that has been that might just be the like subtext of my last couple of years, but definitely last year, it definitely feels like where we're at right now, winning feels overdue. Like getting back on campus and um, reconnecting with the students that I met teaching, that
Talking to our colleagues, like it
all of
just
it,
it seems like it's lining up perfectly.
yeah, it feels overdue. It feels really overdue, and being patient about that has been interesting. But that's how it feels. Shit feels overdue right now, and that brings a lot of confidence. Yeah, I think second on the list was to talk about grow,
Second on the
right?
list was coaching,
Okay,
the
true.
coaching experience. Talk about the journey. Talk about the coaching. And
Yeah.
before we go to that, it's actually funny that you bring up what your humble the poetry said to you about you'd be doing a disservice not speaking up, is because you said basically the same thing to me when I first met you. When you asked me indirect, I say it when it's basically the same way, but it's in indirect ways. When you asked me like, have you ever even considered, doing
Getting.
public speaking
Yeah.
or teaching people? And I go, no, not at all. And it was the
Mm,
same thing, is because you were saying in that same way, a little phrased differently for me in that context there, but it was like, why aren't you talking to people,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see you say that now in this story. And the first thing I think back is I'm like, I swear I've heard that same thing, just a different way
That's
when I
actually
first
funny.
met you.
That's a trip. That's a
Yeah.
trip. I didn't connect those dots. That's
But it's an interesting perspective because it kind of shows the actual resolve you got from it. You don't even realize you're doing it, but you actually did in that moment. You were my humble
yeah,
poetry.
yeah, yeah.
But to continue that, yeah, the coaching experience. I'm only just now getting into coaching. I'm making a list of friends I want to reach out and offer the same type of opportunity that you gave me. But how's the coaching experience been for you in terms of being a teacher, a mentor more so
Yeah.
actually? I wouldn't say
Um,
just teacher.
I think I think a good teacher is a mentor. Um, the best teachers that I can think of from school really did feel like I had my own relationship with them and they were invested in my success.
That's why I say mentor. It's kind of think of it as like squares, rectangle, rectangles, not a square
It
kind of
is
thing.
totally.
Like you're teaching as a mentor, but it's the process you do it is vastly different.
Yeah, and I think like I'm teaching as a like mentors teach, but not all teachers mentor, and
Exactly.
that I think is the variance. The best teachers do though, you
Yeah.
know.
No, exactly. Like a lot of the experiences I had with you of the build up, talking about the topic, subtly mentioning it, doing the little like pick up the small rock, then the bigger rock, and the bigger rock with everything is a lot different from like a conventional teacher that's just like, all right, Anthony, here's ABCD3. That's how you do it, and then walks out the door. Right? It's
Yeah,
like it's the journey that you go along through that lesson. I think is what makes a difference between like a mentor and like a teacher aspect. The teacher isn't really there through the whole journey. It's more so this is the content, this is the yes and no of it.
yeah. I've had a lot of teachers in my life. I've had a lot of mentors, and I haven't had a lot of coaches. I feel like have I even had a coach before?
You were an athlete for 10 years. You would have had a coach, no?
Yeah, sorry, I meant more
Like an
like
academic
a
sense.
like yeah,
Okay.
like academic professional kind of thing. Yes, I have had a coach.
I'm like, I'm like, you're an
What
international wrestler. You
that
haven't had a
qualifies.
coach. Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm
No,
like, you're
you're
underselling
right.
yourself
You're right.
a
You're right.
lot.
You're right. And to speak to what that difference is like for me, to your point, a teacher's goal is to like impart information, and a mentor gives advice on situations, and a coach does both. And my words for that is like they teach you how to think, or at least guide your thinking.
Yep.
And to guide your thinking, they have to do both, what the teacher does and what the mentor does. Like the mentors that I've had in my life, phenomenal humans, literally father figures to me, and people that when I'm in a situation or when we have the regular meeting or whatever, that's when I get their perspective. But the coach is more in the trenches with you.
I think you like perfectly described it. A mentor is, I think, a big difference between a mentor and like a teacher is having that like emotional attachment or connection with the person.
Yeah,
I think that's a
I
big
think
difference
that's
because when you
true.
mentioned like like a father figure, when I start thinking of like mentors in my life, I think of like my older brother,
Yeah,
or like there was a girlfriend I was dating. Her dad really helped me out in the time, right? It's like
yeah,
those are people I'm seeing as mentors because there was that like emotional connection there.
yeah,
Versus like when I think of a teacher, I go to high school and I'm like, my English teacher just cared about whether I knew how to write an essay and that was it, right?
yeah.
But then there was other teachers in that school that were still more mentorship because they would come by, they'd
You
check
have a
up,
relationship.
like what, like
Yeah,
they'd give you actual advice. I'm like, I think that's the deeper meaning behind it. Then
yeah. Totally agree. Totally agree. Um, and it's special. Like this is the reason why leadership fucking matters to me so much because when somebody invests in you like that, like it really does something to you. It really fundamentally changes the way you look at the world. And I I've been ambitious about asking people for that type of relationship, and it's opened literally basically all of the doors that have been open for me in my life was me being like, "Hey, my name's Kyle, and here are my goals for life. Like, I'd love to learn from you," and then being like, "Oh, you remind me of me," and then
boom.
the relationship starts from that. Um,
People are too afraid to ask sometimes, right?
I just don't know you can honestly. Like, I wouldn't say you were afraid to ask, but did you know you could? You
That's
know?
true. But people like it's like having that ambition though, right? Because a lot of times people are like, I can't do that. Like I can't go talk to a teacher. I'm like, why not? Right?
Yeah,
It's always like that defending factor that people do. It's like I can't go and ask that girl for that number. Yeah, you can
yeah,
because you know what's gonna happen. Two things: one, she's gonna say yes, or two, she's gonna say no.
yeah.
Right? But what's the hurt in asking? They're like the individual's not gonna like now change their whole life or career around and hunt you down or try and stab you in the back or anything like that. So I think honestly that's some of the best advice you can get, right? Like just ask.
Yeah,
I love your work. I'd like to work for you. I'll offer you, my time and service to help you out, and all. I just want to learn from you, right? But that's how usually you have like doctorates or PhD students, like they're studying something, they're studying under someone, and guess how that
very well
happens? I
said.
love I love your research, Kyle, and I want to shadow under you, learn you, and I'll offer you any help I can get. I'll sweep, or I'll turn the tables, or I'll mix these chemicals, or I'll write the report at the end of
All
it.
the stuff you hate to do, I'll do for you. That's what it
Ex-
means to be a grad student. So
ex-
that's facts.
exactly, but that's how you get a good mentor,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
And when I like,
Very
and
well
this
said.
makes me remind me of my grandfather. He studied bird migration, and when he was originally studying it, he was studying under a doctor, right? And that's literally how he did it.
Hmm.
He went in and he's like, I love your work. I'm very passionate about this. Can I teach under you, right? And now he speaks of him as a mentor when he gets older.
Exactly, exactly. That was for someone who didn't go to university. You know a lot about the dynamics. That was very well said. Um, yeah, yeah.